I'm going to show you everything you need to know to succeed playing the LoD Meteor build as a wizard in Season 32 of Diablo 3. Let's start off looking at the skills we're going to be needing for this. Meteor is going to cast a lot of arcane power. Our main primary then is going to be Electrocute with the Surge of Power rune, where we're going to gain arcane power for every enemy we hit. That's going to hit a chain of enemies, and it's actually going to hit 3 of them. Of course, on our force, and therefore our right click, we are going to have Meteor. We're having the Star Pact rune for this one, which is going to unleash a massive meteor, smashing everything in its path. We are also going to be using our gear to get the Meteor Shower rune as well, and that's going to be in Kanai's Cube, unleashing a volley of small meteors as well. We then have our Storm Armor, surrounding ourselves with a magical storm that electrocutes our enemies with lightning. Critical hits have a chance to further electrocute a nearby enemy. Magic Weapon with deflection, imbuing your weapon with magical energy, increasing your weapon's effectiveness, and gaining a protective shield when attacking as well. Archon, a big cooldown that is very powerful in this build, becoming a pure being of energy, gaining potent new powers for 20 seconds. We're using the teleport Archon rune in there. You can take the teleport rune instead if you would like with the wormhole. I would swap out magic weapon if you'd like to take that, but it's up to you. Wave of force as well, which we're going to be using, spamming in our rotation to get up some stacks of extra enemy. Each enemy hit increases the damage of your next arcane spell. Discharge a wave of pure energy that damages nearby enemies. So again, we can spam that to get up those stacks, therefore doing more damage, then going into Archon, and then boom, doing huge meteor damage. On the passives then, we've got Power Hungry. You deal 30% additional damage to enemies further than 30 yards away, hence why getting the teleport. If you would like it, you can teleport away, getting far away, and then doing your big meteor with your Archon to do big damage, again, if you wish to take that. Evocation, reducing all cooldowns by 20%. Again, a lot of this is cooldown mandatory. Things like Archon, it's usually on 120 seconds. We do want to get that down and be going back into Archon as quickly as possible. Arcane Dynamo, when you cast a signature spell, which is going to be our Electrocute here, we, after 5 flashes of that, we're going to gain 60% damage on non-signature spells, and therefore on our Meteor. So we want to use our Electrocute to get the 5 times, to get those stacks of Arcane Dynamo, get those 5 stacks, and then use Archon, and then use Meteor. And again, you can see how we're starting to build up our cooldowns and stacks here to then do massive burst damage. It's known as the bazooka build. You know, we're getting all these stacks up and cooldowns, and then boom, big old juicy Meteor. Galvanizing Ward, lastly on the passive, as long as you do not taken damage in the last 5 seconds, you're also going to gain a protective shield absorbing 60% of your life in damage. Let's have a look then at the gear that is going to impact these skills. So having a look at things like Kanai's Cube, the gear we're going to be using, and also the gems, this generally is the build I use here. Will be linked in the description below for you on the D3 planner. So, starting off with the gems, just going through, I like to put some crit damage in my weapon. For the ethereal in Season 32, I like to go with the Oculus. This is a really great balance between speed, farming, and damage, especially considering all of the extra stats that we are going to get on it. In the head, I like to put reducing our cooldown to help us go through things quicker, and then strength is not what I want here. Sorry, these should be intellect, not strength. I put all intellect gems into the gear here. Because we don't have any set bonuses equipped, of course, on this build, I am going to be taking the Legacy of Dreams meta gem so that we can get a big old juicy jump to our damage. Of course, remember, if you do want to use Legacy of Dreams, that is the LOD in the name of this build, by the way, if you're not aware. That does mean that without any set bonuses, you do get a lot more damage. We have Bane of the Trapped in our Convection of Elements here, increasing damage against elites and enemies under the effects of control impairing effects by 60%. Massive there, and we do gain an aura that also reduces their movement speed alongside that as well. Lastly, I like to go for Zay's Stone of Vengeance, where damage you deal is increased for every 10 yards between you and the enemy, so do try and keep your distance with that one. Squirt's Necklace on the neck here so that we can get the 50 and 100% damage bonuses. Halo of Karini, I love. You take 80% less damage in 5 seconds after your Storm Armor electrocutes an enemy. Again, more than 15 yards away. Keep that distance. And Convection of the Elements, it's going to be cycling through the elements there, sometimes giving us a massive boost to our damage. The Oculus weapon is a one-hand weapon, meaning you can go with Tal Rasha's Unwavering Glare on the offhand here. Yes, it's a set item, and we are using LoD, but that only matters as long as we aren't getting any set bonuses. So you still can use this, and also the Black Fawn's Jousting Mail on the legs, as long as you only use one from each one, so that you're not getting the set bonus. Nilfur's Boast on the boots, really self-explanatory. Massive damage increase to your Meteor here on those. Some defense coming in with the stone gauntlets on the hands, getting hit increasing your armor by 50%, but reduces your movement speed and attack speed a little bit, and it can stack as well. We are, of course, using shields, and again, for more survivability, I'm using Ashkenar's Blood Bracers, increasing the potency of our shields there on the wrist item. On the belt, we've got Fazula's Improbable Chain. You automatically start with 50 Archon stacks when entering Archon form. Woohoo for Archon. On the chest, it's the Aquila Cuirass, while above 90% of your primary resource, damage again taken is reduced, therefore giving us that much more survivability that we truly need of this build. Homing pads on the shoulders, where your town portal is no longer interrupted by damage, getting you out of those spicy situations, especially if you're like me and you play hardcore. Again, the Swami on the head is going to impact your Archon. The bonuses from Archon stacks now last for 20 seconds after it expires. And lastly, we've already gone through Squirt's Necklace, Halo of Carini, and the Convection of Elements on the rest of the gear. But what are we putting in our Kanai's Cube this season? Well, unlike last season where we could use whatever the hell we wanted, we are now back to using a weapon, jewelry, and armor slot. So in the weapon, we're going for the Smouldering Core. Lesser enemies are now lured to your meteor impact areas. Absolutely fantastic, suctioning them all in like a vacuum. Meteors deal 50% increased damage on consecutive hits to that same target, and it can stack up to 3 times as well. Massive there for this kind of meteor build we're using. Mempho of Twilight on the armor slot, where again the Meteor Shower rune is now applied to cast all meteors and deals 400% increased damage. And lastly, the Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac in the ring slot, reducing the remaining cooldown of one of our skills by 1 second when you hit with a resource spending attack. So we have in this gear build got a lot of distance between us and the enemy and cooldown reduction, paired with the Meteor and Archon enhancing pieces of gear to bring out that roundness we get into the build. Looking at Paragon points, of course, we're teleporting back in and out and things like that. We're going to need a lot of movement speed. We're going to put our core primary stats into movement speed. Then we're going to put it into maximum arcane power, because remember, the more we have, the more damage our meteor is actually going to do. And then it's going to be intelligence, and as you need it, vitality. If you feel quite squishy, put more into vitality. If you don't really care about feeling squishy, or you feel quite strong and survivable, put more into intelligence. Simple as that. Looking at the offensive stats, we're first off going to put it into cooldown reduction, getting our Archon off cooldown as quickly as possible. Then it's going to be crit hit chance even, crit hit damage, and then attack speed in here. Looking at defensives, we're going to put some into armor, then life, then resists, and then life regen. And lastly, on utility, it's going to be area damage, of course, because of the big area damage our meteor is doing, resource cost reduction, life per hit, and then pick up radius. Looking at the stat priorities you're actually going to want to get on your gear is quite interesting. First and foremost, it's going to be cooldown reduction so that you can get your Archon back off ASAP. After that, we can look at things like arcane damage and meteor damage specifically, resource cost reduction, scaling better with your star pact rune on your meteor, crit chance and damage. Obviously, we want to do a huge crit on those meteors when we can, as much as possible. And after that, area damage is going to be really good as well, for obviously the AoE damage that your meteor is actually going to do when it smashes down. Obviously, there is some other stats that you can look at getting, but I don't want to go too deep into the details. I think, especially thinking people watching this may be wanting more sort of shallow guide to this, but if that's not what you want and you want me to go super duper deep, then do let me know in the comments. This is my first time doing Diablo 3 guides. I will be doing Diablo 3, 4 and Immortal, etc. So do subscribe if you want to see more of it for this season and future seasons. But yes, so these are the 5 that I really recommend that you do get as a top priority. Apart from that, then let's just recap on how we're going to play this build. We're going to use our magic weapon, which is going to last for 10 minutes, increasing the damage of our weapon, and a lot of our items are actually scaling a lot with weapon damage. We're going to use our Meteor, of course, with our Star Pack, and you can see here it's doing a big flurry of them as well. And we can use our Electrocute, spamming it out to get our arcane power back up, and also getting, as you can see here, the 5 stacks of Flashes of Insight, storing potential energy to be released with a non-signature spell, which you can see disappears and is released when I use my Meteor. Of course, we can spam our Waves of Force as well, which with each enemy hit is going to increase the damage of our next arcane spell as well. Obviously, where I'm showing you here, there's no enemies, so we're not getting that buff. And then, of course, using our Storm Armor to electrocute enemies as well. Going into Archon, then, to go super duper whooper and teleporting away and then smashing down our Meteors when we are far away in our Archon. And that is pretty much it, guys. This is a fantastic build. It works really well in groups as well, because everyone can be pulling everything, getting everything together, and then you can just be smashing down those meteors to do absolutely insane damage in a certain area. If you are looking for other Diablo 3 Season 32 guides, or you'd like to see other Wizard guides this season, let me know in the comments, and you can click this playlist here to see the other guides that I am doing for Season 31. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a thumbs up, and let me know again what you think in the comments. You can also join my Patreon or my Discord if you are looking for some extra help on these builds. I love discussing ARPGs and especially Diablo with you guys. I've been playing all the way since Diablo 1. And like I said, I will be doing Diablo 4 and Immortal, etc. guides as well.